Hello and welcome to Speak Your Truth podcast. I'm Kristen Bomas, and today we are on a conscious journey to enlightenment, as we are every day, hopefully. Our topic is our voice and communication and how that supports or does not support our mental and emotional health. So I want you to think about how often in your life you have felt like you have brought something to the table in a relationship, something you want to talk about you, how you're feeling about something that's bothering you, whatever. And the conversation turns out to be about the other person. You seem to lose control of the conversation. You get utterly frustrated and angry and everything goes boom. Happens often, right? Most everyone can relate to that kind of a communication bumble. And yet we all wish to be known and we wish to be heard. And in that, there comes a need for your voice to carry with it the message that you need it to say about you, not somebody else. And there is, in fact, a direct link between the way we are communicating our own life and our own self and our stress levels and our emotional health and wellness. So I want to look at what we can do to kind of put those two thoughts together. It will help you open your mind as you go forward in communicating with what you're doing to really make your life more healthy from the inside out. And of course, that's a very important part to creating more of a mastery in this existence. Your voice. What is it about? And why is it so important that you have a voice on behalf of yourself? Well, the easy answer is nobody else will, because no one knows you like you do. And you may want others to know you. Others may think they know you, but the truth is you're the only one who knows what's going on inside you. And so it's up to you to learn to speak from that point of reference, and that is your truth. Whatever that point of reference is, whatever that experience is you're having inside at the time, that is your truth. And so as I say speak your truth in this podcast and any other podcast, I want you to understand that I mean that from a point of reference of internal experience, yours. What you are experiencing at the moment and what you wish to experience as a result of what you're doing. So, your voice. We learn to communicate in the absence of our voice. We learn to think about the other person. We learn to tell the other person about the other person. We learn to meet the expectations of the other person, read those expectations before they say them so that we can meet them ahead of time so that we can all be good enough. And as we learn to communicate this way, the only thing missing in this communication equation is you and your voice. And yet, you think you're communicating about you. So how does that tie in to what's going on? Well, if we look at how often in our daily lives we tell everybody about them, but we don't talk about ourselves, we see how we get lost. And it's in that lost place that inside a lot of our old challenges get refueled. So let me give a couple examples of that. Right now we see that we've got the hashtag #MeToo and the hashtag Time's Up movements going strong. You've heard me talk a lot about them. You're going to hear me talk about them a lot more. We also, at this time, have the Parkland students really opening up their voice and talking about their beliefs and how schools need to become safe again and their ideas about how to make them safe again. And those are voices on behalf of their beliefs. So let's look at each of those as two examples. In the first, the Me Too campaign says for women and about women first, then we'll include everyone. As women do, we want to include everyone in this movement. But it started with women with a real important purpose. Women have learned over thousands of years to not have a voice. We tend to not only not speak up on our own behalf as a whole, but we also have been socialized to maintain the secrets of others. And so we have maintained the secrets of those people who have sexually or emotionally or physically assaulted us in some way over the years because that's how we were socialized. So now they're having a voice. When they didn't have a voice on their own behalf, their confidence was lacking, their anxiety was increased, their trust broke down, their comfort level with themselves wasn't there, the shame was intensified, The feeling that others didn't like them was intensified. The feeling that they would never be good enough because of what they had endured was intensified. And so, as you can see in this first example, when you have that many challenges going on inside, that can cause feelings of anxiety. It can cause feelings of depression. It can cause identity issues, like just not knowing how to feel comfortable in who you are. Deep feelings of shame and guilt can also feed those aspects of the absence of self. So afraid that there's something wrong with them, that they don't know how to open and show the world who they are. So now the relationships break down, and when the relationships break down, the loneliness can come up. And as the loneliness comes up, so can severe, not only depression, but thoughts of suicide. So we can see just in the simplicity of this, a lot of what can go on. Let's look at the second example, Parkland. You have 17 students and teachers gone and 17 more injured considerably. And then you have an entire community and beyond traumatized by a mass slaughter. It went beyond because the students of today always have their cell phones and are always ready to send a picture on Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or whatever their easiest social media platform is at the time. So not only did they witness their colleagues and friends and loved ones get blown away, but so did thousands of other students across the nation. Mothers and fathers, knowing their children saw something on Snapchat or Instagram or whatever, would say, "Oh, don't look at that," without a clue what just happened to their child. Those pictures were so horrific. And those pictures were the voice of the children suffering as their friends died, in their arms, on top of them, next to them, wherever. That's a form of expression. It is a voice. And so that voice carried throughout the nation, from the voice of the children who were affected through the voice of social media and into the lives of children unexpecting. And then the voice of the parents didn't realize, and so it didn't do much to help. So now, let's start on the outer circle. The children who saw those pictures, the people who saw those pictures, I'm sure they weren't all children, are traumatized by the pictures. They're going to do one of two things. They're going to feel the trauma and have some serious concern and worry and anxiety going forward. Maybe not serious, but it'll be there, present, not just fleeting. They get these pictures, they could actually not have a voice and feel scared and keep it inside themselves. It could be that the next time their school does a drill, they start to feel panicky, but they don't voice it. So now this voice has created emotional imbalance, stress, or anxiety, which is an emotional feeling that doesn't prosper health inside many. So that voice then creates the anxiety or some sort of trauma experience. As we move closer to the inner circles of this disaster, we know that the trauma is spreading like wildfire. And in the trauma, there comes great anger, there comes great anxiety, depression, and avoidance. And in those pieces, we have offshoots of the trauma that can also alter the emotional health of the individual. We have, as a third example, domestic violence at epidemic levels in this country. Epidemic levels. I don't even know what the real stats are, and I don't believe the stats I read, because I can tell you that it's rare that a person comes through my life and has not experienced domestic violence, even either in their current relationships or in past relationships. And in that abuse, we destroy the confidence, the self-esteem, the self-identity, the self. We increase the shame, we increase the fear, we increase the anxiety, we eliminate the trust. And again, we set the stage for significant mental struggles, emotional struggles, belief in life. So if voice can create all of that hell and damnation, then it must also bring with it a beautiful opportunity for health, for emotional strength and mental strength and clarity. And indeed it does. So what we want to learn to do as we go forward and we learn all of this voice of others, about others, is to start to learn to speak about what's happening inside us. And as we practice that, we work on self, we work on opening ourselves, we start to decrease our stresses, we start to decrease those things that we learned from others growing up, so that now we're talking about ourself. And we have to distinguish, as we start to do that, what's really coming from inside us about us, and what did we learn. So, I think that in life there's so much that is put upon us by society, our parents, unknowingly sometimes, siblings, friends, teachers, all of the systems out there. We learn all kinds of ways to behave, think, and be. And so when we kind of put that aside and open to what we're experiencing inside, we start to say, I'm not comfortable with this, I am comfortable with that. We start to have our own thoughts, we start to have greater clarity about what we need. As we fulfill our needs, as we start to really talk and get heard on our own behalf, we're also filling our confidence and our esteem, because in being heard and understood, there's a beautiful reinforcer there. There's an acceptance there. Rarely, as we speak only about ourselves, do we not receive acceptance for that in some way. And through acceptance comes an identity of belongingness, and that, of course, really boosts the ability to move beyond our shame and some of our guilt. So as we start to speak on our own behalf, it is extremely healing to the spirit to be heard. It doesn't matter what the other person says in return, by the way. So let me see if I can give you a little bit of an example of what that looks like. So if I am talking to Jared and I say to him, it's really a shame that, you just can't keep your desk clean. Because really, if you would keep your desk clean, I would just be, so much more happy. And Jared goes like, you got to be kidding me. Like, what does my desk have to do with you being happy? My desk is fine. I don't understand why you're complaining about my desk. Well, now we're not talking about my unhappiness. We're talking about his frustration in his desk. But if I say, I get really uncomfortable when there's clutter and I don't understand, and I'm wondering if there's some way you can help me out with the desk. He's like, I guess I could, but I really like my desk the way I keep it. And I'm like, oh, okay. You can keep your desk the way you keep it. Is there something else we can do to help you, Kristen, with your discomfort? Well, let's sit down and think about that. So let's imagine, Jared's going to wring my neck on that one, but let's imagine that we can have those kinds of conversations where I say I'm the one uncomfortable and the other person comes back and says, okay, let me help you with that. Because they're not defensively protecting themselves because I didn't point a finger and say it was you. So let's use another example. Blame. I love blame. It doesn't really exist, by the way. So let's say that there is something wrong. I don't have anybody really in the house, so I'm going to use my office again. So say there's something wrong with something. The contacts are off or something, and I go out and I say to my assistant, you absolutely messed this up. I can't believe you did this. And of course, I'm going to get defensiveness, and that wasn't me, and I don't understand why you're coming out and blaming me. That's not what I did. And now all of a sudden, all of the trust in the relationship starts to break down. Her or his confidence breaks down. I'm getting frustrated because I'm not getting heard, and I'm all upset about something that's taking place. And yet, it's all because I tried to use blame and accusation or judgment or whatever we want to call that example. But if I go out and I say, I'm concerned that the contacts are not organized properly, and I really need help getting that together, then all of a sudden I can get help getting that back. Okay, I got it. Okay, so a couple. They just finished dinner and he's cleaning the dishes and he's just doing the dishes, and he's, quiet and doing his thing, and she's standing off to the side. She's put everything away, and she looks at him and thinks, God, something's wrong. Like, he just looks really angry. What did I do wrong? Did I do something wrong? And she says, why are you so angry at me? And he's like, what? I'm not angry at you. What are you talking about? I'm sitting here doing the dishes. Like, where did that come from? Why are you saying I'm angry at you? I'm fine. Why are you attacking me? I'm just doing the dishes. Well, that didn't go so well, did it? Now he is angry at her because he's frustrated, because he doesn't understand, and he's defensive, and so now she's going to fight back, and da-da-da-da, and you're off to the races. But what if she says to him, what's going on in your thoughts? Because right now I'm getting afraid that you're upset with me, and I don't think that you are, or that there's a reason for you to be, but I'm getting afraid by the look on your face that you're upset with me. And he stops the dishes, and he looks at her, and he says, no, it's not you at all. Actually, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. I'm just really thinking about something that happened at work today, and it was really annoying. Now she has the opportunity to say, tell me what happened. What can I do to help? We can't move through these simple times in life and build each other's esteem, their perceptions of the world around them, their own self-perceptions, those things that build our shame, if we don't speak on our own behalf. When we tell the other, or we make an assumption about the other and speak from that assumption, we more often than not create defensiveness. And in that defensiveness, we really lose sight of what the original topic was. And you really want to stay on top of that topic in order to be heard, understood, and to make progress and to feel closure. And when things aren't closed, when there's a boo-boo or a wound or a real bad hurt, and you can't put closure to it because you don't know how to talk about yourself, those small to large experiences start to build upon one another. And that's how we have our angry outbursts. And those angry outbursts can be very destructive, mostly because people don't know how to express anger, but they can be very destructive. So when we learn to talk from that voice within, we learn to build our self-esteem and self-confidence, our emotional health and well-being, by starting to address those challenges that are causing perceptual differences, frustrations, which always come from some sense of helplessness, and other stuff. We also learn by talking about ourselves to gently move beyond the expectations and the assumptions in life and stick with the actual experience that you're having, sharing that with another individual and allowing them the opportunity to teach you about them. So as we go through this life, I want you to feel where you switch your tone from this is me, how I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, what I'm perceiving, what I need, to this is what you're doing that's making me feel. Because as soon as you say what you do is making me feel, that person's going to defend their position. That's not what I'm doing. I don't want you to feel that's not, no, that's not me. I'm not the one making you feel that way because that wasn't my intention. And so then you're going to lose sight of the conversation. And that's where there's breakdown in self. And that's why our relationships in this country are so unhealthy. Most of our relationships in this country, they break down. We have almost, I don't know what it is now, it's almost 60%, I believe, in divorce rate. And that comes out of a failing date rate of 80%. So of our dating, they fail, meaning they don't make it to commitment level 80% of the time. So 20% succeed, and of that 20%, 60% fail. Let's say 50%, just to be on, that's the old stat. Let's just stay there, just because that's bad enough. So what does that do? Well, the breakdown in family and the increase in divorce rates certainly breaks down the child's ability to have the healthiest upbringing. Not because divorce is bad, sometimes it's the best thing in the world for a child, but because the child's initial experience of divorce is that their world is shattered. So now they're built upon that, and oftentimes the parents are going through their own pains, and they don't know how to help that child through that perception that their world has fallen apart. So that wound stays there and grows and can cause other wounds. We have situations that are traumatic in life. You know, I know 6 families in the past 12 months who have lost children, and all of them are college age to early 20s children, adult children, and none of them were really expected. And so how do we cope with that, right? And I've talked about that on another podcast, that as we look at those, if we aren't voicing our truth and what we are experiencing in those times of great loss or great pain, then we get lost. And the more we get lost, the more that pain festers. And we all have seen people who have not healed from the loss of a loved one, and the level of grief and pain and despair that they feel causes a depression that can eventually require some sort of medication to lift them back up again. It can cause them to shut down from anxiety. It can cause them to remove themselves from society. All of those are ways in which we see mental health and emotional health break down from not having a voice on behalf of what they're going through. Versus someone who goes through a situation like that and speaks about themselves openly and talks about what they're going through and is willing to reach out to other families and other people and get active and not just use it as a way to stay sad. They tend to grow from the loss and make a beautiful legacy from the death of the loved one or from whatever that tough experience was. So again, it is in your voice as a first step to start to build or rebuild your emotional health in this lifetime. We find balance on the love side of the equation. So if we are really listening to ourselves and caring about ourselves and respecting ourselves enough to speak in a way that we need to speak about ourselves, we then open the doors to our own emotional and life healing. And in that healing, we open ourselves to a greater health in emotion and mindset. So as we come into the month of May, which is our mental health month, let's all listen to our voice. Let's practice having a voice. And if you find yourself getting a sore throat, let life be talking to you that you need to open that voice up. So let's look forward from now until May 1st to opening our voice and practicing that idea. If you have any questions or places where it didn't seem to work, why don't you just send those to me and ask Kristen at KristenBomas.com, and I will respond and help you understand it's not as easy as it sounds, because we were trained to really tell the other person about them and feed the expectations of the other person and not just talk about ourselves. So let's remember that May is Mental Health Month, and I will be in Boca Raton, Florida for the month doing local gatherings every Monday in the month. So there are 3 of them, 7, 14, and 21. And we will be talking about various emotional issues, whether that's trauma, like Parkland, and abuse, like the Me Too movement, domestic violence, substance abuse, depression, and anxiety. So those topics will all be a part of what we're going to be doing over those 3 Mondays. For a more detailed schedule, please go to KristenBomas.com, and please join us on Facebook for our live broadcasts as well. Thank you so much for being a part. Have a great day and find your voice.